So this fucking emote, that's $14.
Oh, hell no! That's what you keep that trash over there in movies. You're a crossover to gaming. And then the Sony fanboys are going crazy. Yes, we get Spider-Man. We get, it's only on PlayStation. We get Spider-Man in the games.
What has become of my city? What has become of its heroes? Its villains? How do I turn back the darkness?
Hey guys, it's me, Racevic. I just wanted to say that Avengers is the least game of all time. Thanks for your understanding.
Without losing myself to it.
Like, oh my god, Marvel's Avengers is like a 0.5 out of 10. IGN.
If I go against everything I stand for, will it be enough?
I don't even like Five Gum.
That's what you're telling me. That's what you're saying by saying I'm a Marvel fan. I'm buying this game. I'm a fan of filth. I'm a loser.
Or am I already too late?
Look there, look to your bottom left. Look! That is the logo of... sorry. Eidos Montreal. Would you like to know what Eidos Montreal used to make? Deus Ex. Would you like to know how good those games were? Very. Would you like to know what's happening to the currently unfinished story now? Fuck all. Because of this!
You should have gone for the head.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go, sir. Please. Please, I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
I can't. But I owe it to Deus Ex to see what it died for. The 7th live service looter of its ilk, the 6th star of controversy, an Avengers story, and 2 knives sunk deeply in this game's heart that I fear will kill it dead forever. We're in for a show tonight. It's unconventional. Maybe you're here to see blood, and if so, I can provide. But you might have the wrong preconceptions. You'll see. First, we've got to get through the intro, a sequence of beautifully produced and yet terribly executed cliches.
This is so cool.
You're in the way.
I'm sorry.
This contest should only be for the real fans.
Oh, why is everybody so cringe these days?
Hello there.
Freeze frame. Yup, I bet you're wondering why we're on Reddit. So am I. This isn't a Dolan Dark meme. After A-Day, there's a superpower, Power Vacuum. An AIM just about takes over the world. But somehow, the Resistance subreddit, r/the Resistance, is still going strong. Oh, and what's that? A spoopy link? We have to guess Tony Stark's password? No. No, don't do it. No, please, please don't do it.
Oh my god, I'm in!
No!
I'm in! I can't.
Well, you gotta look on the bright side. At least I get to talk about Iron Man now. With Deus Ex, I can at least pretend to hide my completely shameless fanboyism, but for Iron Man, can't be done. No matter how much I love Batman or Spider-Man, at the end of the day, neither of them ate donuts inside a donut. What can I say? I'm a stan, I admit it. I'm like that guy who watched Shrek so much he could replay it frame for frame in his memory, except with the tank scene and that bit where Justin Hammer dances onto the stage. So, as a games critic, I'm sure you can imagine how painful the wait for a video game adaptation has been. Well, you don't actually need to imagine. Did movie license games kill any chance of a studio having another crack at the character? I certainly hope not, and I do believe there's hope with Eidos Montreal's upcoming Avengers games. Here we are. He's front and center on the Avengers posters. He's who Disney used to advertise their products. He's even in Fortnite. I think there might be an audience. And unlike Cap, who also deserves more, there's so much potential here not even Ubisoft could screw it up. Being the most versatile superhero in either Marvel or DC, believably capable of just about any form of gameplay, the fact that we've never received a decent title for anything but the mobile or Nintendo DS is shocking. You could have Iron Man Guitar Hero, you could have Iron Man F1, you could have an Iron Man dating sim, and Iron Man drinking games. But no, everything we've got since has come with a caveat. Whether it's a dedicated Iron Man title being exclusively for VR, the Iron Man 3 game as good as it was being developed for mobile, Anthem just being shit, or Marvel's Avengers deciding to attach looter-shooter elements to a game where every character in it apparently has immutable weapons and immutable skins. They cancelled my favourite media franchise of all time, so they could cuck my favourite character of all time.
I'm a piping hot mess.
Time to check the damage. Let's see just how badly they ruined Iron Man. Oh god. Well, short answer, they didn't. They fucking nailed him.
What we do here is go back.
Weaponry is a big topic for Iron Man, but I don't think it needs to be difficult at all, because previous games have already done it perfectly well. Iron Man Wii had a 3-weapon system that you could upgrade throughout the game. And let's be honest, Iron Man's at his best when he's knee-deep in it. This is why I think a peaceful New York setting would be inappropriate, and something like Just Cause would be much better. An area overrun with terrorists, or AIM, or the Mujia family. But if enemies can reliably deal some form of damage to you at any range you can do damage to them, you don't even need cooldowns. You can just make weapons highly specialized. Instead of missiles being good against everything, perhaps make them noticeably less effective at taking out infantry. Despite Iron Man being a walking armory, only 3 weapons is low by any game standard, so I absolutely think that stuff like the micro-missiles, the uni-beam, and the laser should be present as rechargeable attacks. But for the repulsors and missiles, it makes sense for us to be able to charge a heavy version, and for combo-like moves to be available if you can perform the right sequence of lights and heavies. Of course, there can still be punches mixed in with repulsor blasts if enemies get up close, and like Arkham, Iron Man can still switch targets between hits in the combo. My crystal ball must have been faulty that day. I didn't quite predict the Verizon sponsorship, but it's safe to say that I am currently experiencing a thermonuclear bruh moment. I asked, I got cucked. I asked for something else, and I got less cucked. So don't give up on your dreams, kids. Lasers represent crowd control, missiles are for single target or ranged multi, repulsors are versatile. You have your heavy light combos, you have wonderfully animated melee. We've got the repulsor shotgun from Age of Ultron, we've got the Hulkbuster, flares, unique flight attacks. We're looking at the best rendition of Iron Man in a video game by a margin wider than Kylo Ren, and you can apply that breadth to everyone. 6 characters. You impressed? This game would have to come out of the screen and staple a picture of Deus Ex being cancelled to my forehead to be less than a 4 out of 10. It's a remarkable thing. They've tried to create a combat system that could fit any superhero, and yet one that also feels like it was built for superheroes. That's why you've got no Arkham counters, because it wouldn't make any sense for Hulk. Avengers instead combines a dodge system with exceptionally outstated, highly impactful enemy attacks. When you get hit in this game, you get hit hard. Iron Man will be blown out of the sky. Even Hulk will tremble. Should he? The movement system isn't complex, but remarkably well executed for a system that had to be balanced regardless. Each hero has a real sense of momentum to them, with a sprint jump universally providing a vast speed boost, and subsequent hell jumps gaining more and more speed up until a particular maximum, which is how Hulk and Cap get around the map at a similar speed to the likes of Iron Man, who himself can begin flight with thrusters on or off. Depth is the sum of your relevant, balanced options. We've got a wide array of spectacular options, and they're relevant because they're balanced. But it's not always the game that does the balancing. No, sometimes it's you. Intrinsic depth is what you bring to the table, what you find cool. Be it heroes or attacks will influence the options you choose in a significant sense. We can say quite conclusively that this is cooler than this, but it is nonetheless a subjective thing. Extrinsic depth, however, isn't. This is preordained. In a way, it's the game's balancing, and so the only difference between any 2 analyses of it is how right they are, which is exactly why people who tell you this game has no depth are, to put it simply, wrong. But hey, I get it. Avengers is a game scared of its own depth. Avengers is a game that takes every preventative measure to cloud it in fog. Why don't we start with the obvious? Avengers couldn't afford AC/DC. This destroys the game's depth. No, but really, who they could afford was Iron Maiden, and sometime into the story, you'll be flying into space wearing Iron Man 3's Star Boost armor to their tune. It's very cool indeed, but what they don't tell you is that you can actually recreate this at any time you please. Jarvis, what's the record for interplanetary transfer speeds? Records are made to be broken. This game doesn't need a patch list. It needs a constitutional amendment. The loading screens are so long you'd think Mauler coded them, and the matchmaking doesn't work. But in combat, you'll be a little more concerned with the frame rate going up and down like a kangaroo, enemies glitching into the environment, making them phase robots in more ways than one, character freezes, attacks whose damage radius is larger than the area telegraphed, and of course cutscenes that allow enemies to continue moving while you're stuck in place with your thumb up your ass, only to come back looking like John Wick from the movie posters. Holy shit. They paid so much attention to detail. They even made Natasha invisible in the cutscenes.
If I hadn't, all those people.
No.
This game has more defections than the Soviet Union, which is doubly apt because much like whatever the fuck this is supposed to be, Avengers doesn't exactly have an art style. It's got decent graphics and a series of catastrophic decisions that compose the second depth roadblock. I can't see shit. Well, I can see shit, but I can't see what's going on, because the particle effects do cardio with no hands, just about everything causes a particle effect, the enemies are as massive as they are numerous, and the spaces are all too often enclosed. They've tried to create a superhero spectacle, and in doing so, the monstrous visual effects end up clouding a clear read of the situation. Combat requires an uncertain system, but the uncertainty is derived from the outcome, not the nature of the system itself. In other words, to be fun, combat systems need to be readable. But if you want to read Avengers, you're going to need to hire a code breaker. So resultantly, you'll take frustrating hits you couldn't clearly see coming, you'll lose your sense of place entirely, or get knocked right out of the sky. And that's a problem only exacerbated by the arenas you're fighting in. This game is 50% aim base. I hope you like the hive from the series they killed to build this on, because Avengers insert mega corporation here bullshit robs the name, iconography, and namely, the tightness. Iron Man can fly around just fine, but 4 out of 5 times I was hit, I couldn't see the effect it had, because the expressive animation that had no space to complete gave the camera an anxiety attack. And Hulk? Well, what arena could be more appropriate? Graphical problems are similarly amplified by the excessive nature of ranged enemies. Drones come in legions, each fire multiple projectiles at a time that will stagger and interrupt, but peacekeepers and adept drones fire virgin-seeking missiles instead. Those will simply blow you away. Dodge, parry, hit him with the freedom frisbee, that's the idea. But in high numbers you can become trapped in a dance of dodges, an infuriatingly doomed prison, and with incoming indicators as subtle as this. Contrasted against what seem like micronuclear detonations, frustrating damage is all but guaranteed. There is an indistinct critical mass where combat becomes too overwhelming for the depth of the game to do its work. Tough to make choices if your game is currently experiencing near black hole time dilation. Tough to make choices if your only viable choice is eternally doing the roly-poly, because there are too many attacks heading your way. There are 2 remedies. Time, which this game is running out of, can work considerably to adjust your senses to the chaos. And Iron Man. There's many reasons I chose to place him in the spotlight. This is one of them. Intrinsic motivation. It's something of a big deal regarding Disney's super secret Prophet Goblin boy band, so chances are you're going to pick your favorite regardless. But Iron Man is objectively the best. Sorry guys, I don't make the rules. The suit has literal countermeasures that can address a number of the game's worst qualities. Missiles can be pre-detonated, ranged enemies are less oppressive, and chaos is less imprisoning. Like Thor, he can simply leave. It's a damn good thing then that flight controls feel surprisingly responsive when you get used to them. But you can never stop yourself from noticing the obvious. Iron Man, Thor. These characters move like bullets through the air, but here they are, at a crawl. This is the best Iron Man combat system, but it doesn't sell the Iron Man fantasy better than the movie tie-ins or Just Cause 3, because the playing fields are so dense, and you can't fly properly. Hulk has already been done better, with entire armies to fight on the stage of a destructible city. In this game, he staggers at the slightest touch. Not quite what I expected. Captain America has already been done arguably worse, but fighting Hydra in World War II sells the fantasy a hell of a lot better than Deus Ex's Corpse Patrol. Thor's fantasy suffers similarly, and Black Widow? You kidding me? Russian super spy, swinging off lampposts, shooting giant metal robots with a Kalashnikov. Wait. They say too many cooks spoil the broth. They say that in trying to please everyone, you will please no one. But I am pleased. I'm just not elated. Sacrifices had to be made. To what end? Well, presumably that'd be for co-op. Like Captain Chromosome said, together. And if we're gonna sell our souls to Verizon, we'll do that together too. Oh my god. Is that Tony Stark's merch store? God, I mean, it's just such a brilliantly designed website. How could he have made this? You'd need at least 301 IQ to have all these features in the same place, unless of course Jarvis told him to go to squarespace.com/whitelight to save 10% on his first purchase of a website or domain, which he would make use of because his ass is broke. Unlike the design features, Squarespace is an impressive intertwining of accessibility and depth. It is the embodiment of robust creation tools for your centralized online hub. Whether it's store integration or community features, Squarespace can provide. Shouldn't be hard to verify. You don't even need to give them your card details before you're satisfied. The B in Squarespace stands for bad, and Squarespace stands for quality. Links in the description. So how does teamwork work? Answer: it doesn't. There aren't distinct gameplay roles like in Overwatch. There aren't meaningful cooperative attacks like in Marvel Ultimate Alliance. There aren't mechanics that require distinctive team play like in Destiny. What there is a support heroic that simply translates to a short-lived break for your team, status effects that no random will help you stack, and matchmaking that doesn't work. The contribution of team play is minuscule. We're the Avengers, but we aren't even living up to Destiny and Warframe, both of which didn't have to sacrifice a fantasy, and both of which don't suffer from the following. In most games alike, cooperative play is typically performed at range, a range from which you can actually see what the hell is going on. In Avengers, you're ganging up on that same enemy a damn sight more intimately, and with extremely expressive attacks from 5 characters, including the enemy at the same time, you can't coordinate your own attacks, let alone try for teamwork if you can't see what's happening. For all the joy of the diverse Avengers playstyles, team play is a mess, and the very presence of a team weakens the integrity of the combat system to begin with. If you want to see Iron Man and Cap working together cooperatively, play Ultimate Alliance. If you want to see you and your friend working together cooperatively, play any other entry in the genre. The social elements don't exist for a large community to thrive. So tell me, what is there to save it from the first knife in its heart? That leaves one more to go, but we're not quite finished here. The other problem that arises from a lack of focus on any one character is a lack of focus on any one character. The progression sequence is primary leveling, then light grind with mastery leveling, and finally min-maxing your build. It's quick enough for a game with such homogeny in a 6-character roster. It's slow enough that you'll get your money's worth, but it's not right for a game that splits your attention between all 6 over the course of the campaign. To quantify, you'll probably unlock a third of the first page of skills for each hero by the credits roll. That's not good. You're experiencing base level variation in the glee of playing your favorite Avengers, likely for the first time, but with each at their shallowest form and each tucked within the campaign when the presentational issues are at their worst. Premature conclusions from reviewers who don't play beyond it seem inevitable. They're wrong, but I understand why. Avengers is only fun with mastery, the time it takes to adjust to its chaos, and the time it takes to unlock the depth. You have to give it a chance. I'm not saying it's a chance it deserves, and I'm not saying this is the second knife. Everyone knows these games often have a redemption arc. This is what killed it today. It's not what I fear will kill it forever. That's yet to come. But first, Avengers has a story to tell us. Meet Kamala Khan.
Better.
She's the worst character of all time. Meet Tony Stank.
Piece of cake or pie. Pie is good too.
He's the worst character of all time. In the comics, Tony wasn't very funny. In the movies, Tony was very funny, but in the Robert Downey Jr. deadpan wit way, not in the Ryan Reynolds terrible light-hearted puns way. This is Nolan North's bog-standard funny guy delivery, just without the funny lines to deliver. Nathan Drake with a spanner.
I think I don't have neighbors. They'd be so pissed off right now.
Yeah, I believe this guy's got 300 IQ. And I highlight those two for a reason. As it turns out, the real problem with a lack of focus on any one character is unequal focus on all of them. Perhaps I focus on Iron Man too much, but too much is the point. Of the 5 Avengers, none gets an appropriate amount of time in the spotlight, but Iron Man has 2 tasteful missions dedicated towards him. Does Thor? Cap? Widow? You've bought an Avengers game where you've played Thor for a sum total of 10 minutes, Captain America for 20, Black Widow for 25, Hulk for 40, and Iron Man for an hour. But you've nonced around in social spaces doing mind-numbing busy work for more than 2 of those combined, and spent the rest of the time playing a walking archetype who isn't an Avenger. The idea is, Kamala's naive idealism would be exactly what a fractured team needs to glue them back together. They are protectors, and so they must protect her. But equally, they might have forgotten what it is to be a hero. What better to remind them than such purity? It's an archetype. She's an endearing means to an end, but the uninspired ways they choose to use her makes her predictable and wildly uninteresting. So when the story zeroes in on her with a laser focus, she only works to its detriment. I just want to be normal. I'm an idealist, so I'm going to do something incredibly naive against the word of my mentor. I wish I wasn't alone. These points are often made poorly, but having seen them done 1,000 times before, they were poor points to make in the first place. I bought the Avengers. Instead, I got a painfully predictable origin story for Ms. Marvel. Huh. But Kamala is a symptom, not the disease. Heroes get shunned, random people get powers and society treats them poorly. An evil megacorp takes over. There's special robots who adapt to fight superhumans. There's a secret underground resistance primarily composed of young adults, somehow. Iron Man has a disagreement with someone and fights them. The helicarrier falls out of the sky. None of these have the dimension of their better portrayals. The game isn't archetypal because Kamala is. Kamala is archetypal because the game is. We are looking at the world's first algorithmically generated plot. Avengers is a collage, a remix. It's what an AI would come up with if you gave it only the tropes page of superhero stories to study. That guarantees being unremarkable. What guarantees being utterly mediocre is the brain-dead way this collage is stitched together. It is so unashamed. It'll literally have Kamala question her place in the world, only for a portal to open up seconds later, leading directly to the answers she sought. This game will have the Avengers fall apart for 2 minutes flat. Imagine if Oasis was like that. Kamala doesn't even have any powers, she's just getting spaghettified by how hard Iron Man 3 sucks. Oh yeah? Mr. Too Fat to fight in Ames corridors? You're not even alive in the movies anymore. You don't even have any movies! No, you guys, stop fighting! This isn't cool! Well, she makes a good point. And let me just remind you, yes, Tony Stark's super secret password really is I am Iron Man. Seriously, that wasn't a Dolan Dark meme. I double checked, reinstalled, went to a psychotherapist. She really did find Ames' dirty secrets on the r/theresistance subreddit. The plot is routinely gobsmackingly dumb, and without the sublime dialogue of the MCU's Marcus and McFeely, 10 minutes of memorable conversations in a 10-hour runtime does little to redeem it. You have a story 2 of the Avengers are barely in, built from careless contrivances and the recycled scraps of the tired giant that is the superhero genre. It's hard to be bad when you're hitting copy and paste, and Avengers isn't. It has its moments, but they are few and far between. Some say it's genuinely better to be bad than mediocre. Perhaps that's true, only in that it is harder to care. I don't have the energy to talk about it. Avengers becomes fun only with mastery, and after the campaign, the time for mastery is the Avengers Initiative. This right here, this is the endgame. How are we planning on beating this? Well, not together, I assure you. Consider it instead like this. It's Warframe. You have a selection of mission types within a selection of regions. The type merely dictates the focal gameplay scenario. Hack terminal, escort, exterminate, etc. And the region, or war zone, is the environment you'll traverse to get from the drop-off point to the actual objective. Major difference is that, Shield Vault being a consistent exception, the objective almost always resides within an aim base, no matter what war zone surrounds it. It's as monotonous as you'd predict. Not least because the selection of aim-based chambers the generation system has to choose from are far fewer in number than that of even one Warframe tileset, but more so because nothing in this game has a style. You have standard desert, standard tundra, standard city, and AIM, the industrialized warts on these landscapes you visit, are merely a stand-in for big evil megacorp, with random flying platforms scattered about, and ridiculous holographic projections. How the fuck do you take cues from your own game? A game so stylized it looks like the engine has liver failure, and then not have a style. This isn't a world. It's level design. It isn't a place. It's a stage for gameplay, dressed in what feels like stock assets. Destiny and Warframe are the obvious comparisons here. Where the paid experience exhibits a world-class marriage of art and level design, the free-to-play title may routinely look like a rectal cavity, but nonetheless boasts unique, interesting stylization, with levels that feel believable relative to what they are contextualized as. Deserts don't have random, conveniently placed outcrops for you to climb. Cities don't have completely nonsensical flying platforms, and nowhere has stylization this numb. Certainly not megacorporations more powerful than God who prioritize strong public relations. But don't let the looks ruin your immersion. The mechanics already have that covered. Warzone design has the basic makings of exploration gameplay. There's points of interest with an inconsistent win-loss reward pattern. Sometimes you come over the ridge, you'll find something great. Other times, an activity a little more challenging and a little less rewarding. A decent foundation. Trouble is, exploration fundamentally entices distraction. It's an itch you just have to scratch. And when you're trying to free someone from captivity, or there's an implied time limit to this excursion, noncing around looking for shiny upgrades conflicts deeply with urgency. That happens constantly, both throughout the campaign and the endgame initiative questline, whose urgency comes from Maria Hill or Hank Pym telling you to go dropkick the Cybermen for any number of reasons. That's praiseworthy for post-game questing. But make no mistake, you will experience new content only in redistributions of old content, on a micro level through things like the hives, which are simply bigger, layered aim bases, or on a macro level where the sequence and structure of the objectives vary. You'll fight the warship from the campaign in the Blazing Forest, for example, apart from this Dreadbot. It has a pylon on its head. That's new. And I suppose it wouldn't be wrong to count the 2 boss arenas at the end of the villain sectors. What are those? Well, they're aim bases, but with Taskmaster at the end. Sounds ridiculous, but it's true. In one day, I ended up being asked to fight Taskmaster 4 times. 4 fucking times. And for 3 of them, they genuinely attempted a story. Maria Hill has a grudge against Taskmaster, go sort him out. Alexandra Morales has a grudge against Taskmaster. Go sort him out. What prison are we keeping him in? Internet jail? Are we releasing him on probation? Maybe he learned his lesson this time after 15 seconds in the can. No, actually, we're fighting clones. Seriously, they wrote a couple lines in to explain he's being cloned. Curiously though, you never end up finding out it's not AIM's advanced research. It's their gods hitting Control-C, Control-V. This is a priority mission in more ways than one. Crystal Dynamics have to sort this out, because as funny as it is, this is morbidly embarrassing. Otherwise, you'll fight giant robots who are only fun if you're playing Iron Man or Thor, and Abomination who's only fun if you're playing Hulk. The robots are too large for non-flyers to fully engage with, the humanoids are too small to avoid the visual gangbang tragedy, and none of them are deep. Their attacks are no more interesting or intimidating than any bog-standard opponent, and so the most meaningful difference is the length of their bar, and their health meter. Why bother with any of this? Mastery for one, and I mean that literally. Every hero has a mastery and a specialty skill tab, with specialty enhancing heroic abilities, mastery behaving more generally, and both working on a mix and match basis. You unlock the tree, not the skill. It's up to you to choose which of the 3 perks you like best. A great way of enforcing build diversity, and shockingly well made. Mastery doesn't just mean 3% increased critical chance. You can unlock afterburners, flares, reflector shields, among surprisingly significant stat boosts. There's no better word to describe it. You feel as if you truly are mastering your hero. What a terrible design choice. Okay, that's not fair. It's fantastic, but it does have unforeseen consequences. For the sake of encouraging character switching, endgame skill point progression is vastly quicker than it is in the campaign, but whoever it is you pick to master is going to be the only one strong enough to do the post-game questline. By the time it starts asking you to switch, the difference in depth between your main and your alts is so gaping, you might consider quitting a preferable alternative. This is where I stopped grinding. Avengers becomes fun only with mastery. By the time I've got that fun, I don't want to sacrifice it to spend multiple hours unlocking the other 2/3 of the primary skill tree for whoever's next. Time heals all wounds, but not this one. The longer you leave it, the worse it gets, which is why Avengers is desperately in need of a skill boost system for low power characters. A fully optional consumable that maxes out the primary skill tree of anyone you please. Without mastery, what does Avengers possibly hope could keep me coming back? The questline, but for what? Loot! For the duration of the campaign, the loot has been nothing but a poison, a mere numeral that sometimes gets bigger, a constant reminder of the game you're playing, and a constant pest, as you're forced into cleaning up your inventory after each mission. There's no mass dismantle! You have to do it every time, for every one, and you only have 9 slots. That's just so awesome, dude! But in the initiative, I drop the sarcasm. Once the gear starts coming with meaningful perks, you'll want to hold on to some of your favorite stuff. And when that happens, the resources, which until now have just existed, come into play hand in hand. The entire point of these currencies is boosting your gear. Each boost is 1 light level. So the idea is you keep your favorite stuff relevant until you find something better. The instant gear behaves as more than just a number. The system falls into place like dominoes. But you may not believe it. Word on the street is that Avengers has meaningless loot. I don't know what games people are comparing this to get that impression. Destiny? The game where gear comes stock with immutable perks that literally just describe the weapon's base stats? Increased range? It comes with the weapon. Increased from what? Gamma status grants ticks of poison damage. A Jarvis Hollow Shield makes me invulnerable if I perform the setup right. Pim particles on my laser turns it into a fucking shrink ray. That directly influences how I choose to approach combat. What compose Destiny's exotic perks, in this game, are standard. I'm not seeing much in the way of distinctive builds, but I found the loot grind compelling, and I couldn't even see it. Perhaps others didn't, but there's only so much subjectivity to this discussion. It seems an odd myth to spread, but it's easy to see a 5 Gum sponsorship and jump to conclusions. Honestly, what kind of superhero game advertises a chewing gum? If you know that's the kind of game you're dealing with, you might be less compelled to question consensus on the battle passes, for example, which in reality are as free as this game's future DLC. If they keep to that promise, perhaps it may not deserve the same ire as Destiny. Perhaps. You're looking at a game notably less predatory than its contemporaries, and yet infinitely more depressing, because they didn't have to sacrifice themselves. You can see that. You can feel that. They put loot on a game where iconic characters have immutable weapons and costumes. Just because I couldn't see the loot doesn't mean I don't wish I could. Which in fact is their argument, not mine. I don't think iconic characters have immutable costumes. Doesn't take long to remember Assassin's Creed Unity. That game managed to preserve assassin iconography with a range of stylistic choices wider than Vladimir Putin. And that game wasn't a looter shooter. But perhaps given the context, you'll remember that Iron Man 3 exists sooner. Yeah. I'm not so sure you can't have cosmetic customization on iconic characters. Limit color choice so people don't make themselves look like bronies, and feel free to monetize away. I'm sure Halo 5 made a fuck sight more money than Green Iron Man will. The iconic armor is my favorite suit in the game, and it's free. That's not generosity. That's just the contrast that exists between a hero's baseline appearance and the absolute pittance sold in this shop. A sixth of Captain America's costumes are just different colors of Steve Rogers in shorts. Realize that what you're looking at here are recolors. There aren't 20-something suits, there's 5. Green Iron Man is just the piece of junk prototype you get for free. But green. Well, shucks. Guess I'll just buy the Mark 34 Virgin armor, which is great because the name of the product is the same as the insult that'll be used against those who have it. Thank Christ they've got more than just blonde Natasha to shill. You dangle a new Iron Man takedown in front of my face, my monkey brain might just consider dropping 50p or something on it. Turns out they're only 15. Oh, sorry. No, not 15p. 15 US pounds. What in the fuck? I could animate a takedown myself for £15. And that's not even how much you need to get the lowest usable credit bundle. For the 20 Unified States of Europe rupees it really cost to buy Green Iron Man, you could have adopted 4 pandas, donated to my OnlyFans for more than a year, or gone to Romania and lost your virginity, so the insults don't apply anymore. As unlikely as it seems, perhaps this dismal effort is a result of time restriction. If so, they're still on the clock. You might want some sweet threads to keep your player base around on a game that can't host a large community and doesn't have a long-term endgame. Would anything surprise you at this point? There's no raid. There is maxing your characters and grinding gear. For some reason. No. We're not having this conversation. We're done. But not even that is the second knife. Sorry. Gonna have to subvert your expectations again. A raid? That can be patched in. Wait a couple months, I'm sure they're working on something. No, it's not any one of these things. It's all of them, in combination with everything you've seen, everything you've felt, and everything you've heard. Literally, it's the fact that we're playing a game so openly bastardized for money, in combination with a nothing art style, the algorithmically generated plot, and the stock superhero music. It's that, though this game is fun, it has no soul. That's the second knife. The Division was somewhat endearing. Destiny was enthralling, 2 less so. Warframe had its magic, and even Anthem had some scrap of spirit. This? If I'm meant to repeatedly come back, I have to want to be there. That takes an atmosphere, a true sense of world, characters, mysteries, community. Come every year, come every failure, Destiny bounces back. If it isn't dead by now, it's unkillable. Why is that? The music of the spheres I truly believe is a work of pure shining genius, and its lore cards are like crack. People are more nostalgic for Destiny's first years than they are for their own childhood. Warframe, The Second Dream, 50 million registered losers, Shy calling her audience virgins. To those who know it, those words mean something. We're in a genre positively dripping with soul. That makes them magnetic. But Avengers is empty. It wants to be a black hole for wallets, without pulling people, and without that gravity, there's nothing to veil its nature. I've reviewed worse games than this, but I've never clowned on anything so hard before. That's the point. We want to hate this game. The battle passes are free, the loot isn't shallow and nor is the combat, but none of that matters to anyone. The looter-shooter is a cursed genre. Avengers is the only one that doesn't have the spell to break it. I'd say we're playing a dead game walking, but with bugs like this, it's probably using a mobility scooter. If you're an Iron Man fan, get this on a decent sale, and for everyone else, on a much more decenter one than that. Though I should probably let you know that Natasha has a Slav Squat emote, cancelling out the fact that Kamala has a Reddit account, and making this game perfectly balanced, as all things should be. But I'll still call the feds if you buy this game for the campaign. Next time we review Iron Man 2 Donut Scene for 7 hours.